Hello everybody, day 4 of the 7-day writing challenge, and we're just over the halfway hump, and I hope that you're not feeling that sort of drained energy that you feel when you're halfway through something, but that you're starting to get a little bit more inspired and fired up. And so today I want to talk to you a little bit about the exercise that you had to do today, because I know that today was really one of the harder parts of the writing challenge. Getting to write about our emotions is probably one of the hardest things that we have to do, and it's one of the hardest things to learn how to do well. But there really is nothing more important to get good at as a writer. There is nothing more important that we have to learn to do, because when we write about emotions, we start to get into this thing of telling people how we feel. That's how we tend to write about our emotions. I was sad, I was heartbroken, I was distraught, I was overwhelmed. And this becomes a way of, we think we're sharing with people how we're feeling, but all that we are doing when we do that is we are telling people how we feel. Nobody feels anything when you say, I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, I'm in love. Doesn't make us feel anything as a reader. And so the skill of working with our emotions and making other people feel the things that we're feeling, is to write about them in a way where we're not talking about so much about the emotion, but about the way emotion is experienced by us. And so that's where we start to move into the senses, and we start to draw on the senses, which is what the writing exercise today was about. It's to help make connections for people so that they can taste that emotion, or they can see that emotion, or they can feel it on their skin, rather than you didactically telling them how you felt. When we tell people how we feel, we don't make them feel anything. So instead of saying, I was turned on by him, you could talk about the scorch of his touch. I feel that, I certainly can get a little feel when I hear the scorch of his touch, as opposed to, I was turned on by him. Or if you said the bile of her love, as opposed to my mother never loved me. Can you see how it's a very different experience when we're using physical sensations to describe or bring people into the emotions, because we're always looking for a way to connect with our reader. We want to get out of our little head bubble, our own experience, the overwhelm, or the ocean of emotion of our experience. We want to get out of that, and we want to create a little bridge for the reader so that the reader can come into that emotion with us. And even though a reader will not have specifically perhaps experienced what you're talking about, the exact experience that you're writing about, a reader is going to have experienced that emotion, perhaps just in a different iteration of it, in a different expression of that emotion. So they will have experienced grief, but perhaps they will never have lost a child. They might have lost a best friend or a parent, or their identity. They might have been in an accident and lost their ability to walk, so they have grief about that. So whenever we're writing about something, the emotion of that experience is our connection to somebody else. But how we write about emotion is the difference between it being us being told how you felt, where we feel nothing, disconnected. I'm totally disconnected if you're just telling me, or you're creating these little bridges for me where I can enter into that experience with you through my heart, because we're all connected through our hearts. We're all connected through our emotions, and emotions are the things that we will then thread into our writing as themes. That's what a theme is. A theme is one of these emotions that can, many themes are emotions. There are things that are not emotions that can be themes too, but in every piece of writing there will be an emotion that runs through it, and it will be your theme. It will be one of your themes at least. So it's so good to have a handle on how to write about emotion, and how to write about it in an effective way, so that we're really connecting with our reader. I wanted to just talk to you a little bit. I wanted to share a little bit with you about one of the aspects that I teach in my Author Awakening adventure these different elements of consciousness that help us to become authors. I use connection. Connection is a big theme in that course. And connection is all about this, about how we connect with ourselves, make eye contact, and how we make contact with our reader. And it's all about being connected. And so what happens when we fail to connect with, in our writing, is that our writing is going to end up as being inauthentic. It's going to be abstract. It will be uninspired and disembodied. You'll often write in the passive voice. It will be quite self-indulgent writing that is way too interior. It's not working out how to structure emotion to keep your reader engaged. Writing that doesn't touch the reader, perhaps writing that is a bit pretentious and trying too hard, or is copying another writer, not making that bridge between the personal and the universal. So it shows up in the writing like that when you're not connected, when you emotionally are not connected. But as I teach in that course, whatever's showing up in your writing is showing up in your life as well. Writing is such a beautiful mirror of that. And so some of the things that might be showing up in your life are feeling separate from yourself and from others, feeling isolated, feeling it's all about you. So it could be an over-identification with your ego, feeling alone and misunderstood, a fear of intimacy, feeling fractured, being cynical, skeptical, being narcissistic, greedy, not being able to reciprocate, having a scarcity mentality or a competitive mentality. And there's a whole list of things that show up when we are emotionally not connected to ourselves and to other people. So can you see why it is so important that we really master this ability to connect with ourselves and with other people? I've written a new book that's coming out with Hay House later this year called Your Story, How to Write It So Others Will Want to Read It. This is just a self-published version, but the Hay House version will be coming out soon. And I just wanted to read you the chapter on this. It's not a long chapter, on this element of writing about emotion. The chapter's called Touch and Be Touched. Touch and Be Touched. And I just start with these two quotes. No tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. No surprise in the writer, no surprise in the reader. That's by Robert Frost. And that beautiful Maya Angelou quote, which I'm sure most of you have heard, which is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. We write to touch and be touched. The deepest, most sacred element of writing is that we are connecting with ourselves and with readers. To do this, we need to be plugged into our own emotional worlds. We cannot write if we are numb to our own pain, grief, joy, lust, and longing. We have to be in touch with it all. Our job as writers is to make readers feel something. But I hear you mutter, I can't even make my 3-year-old pick up her toys, let alone get the teenager to unload the dishwasher. How do I make anyone do anything? Well, of course we can't force anyone to feel anything. The only person we can make feel anything is ourselves. And the problem is that many of us are living not only a short distance away from our bodies, but a whole continent away from our hearts for all kinds of protective, survival, and some lazy reasons. Many of us don't go down there where the feelings are. It's messy and mucky and unpredictable, and it's sore. No one has said it better or more concisely than Ernest Hemingway, who said, write clear and hard about what hurts. Write clear and hard about what hurts, because what hurts is the connective tissue between us and our readers. They may not have buried a parent or lost all their money or had a father who went to jail, though that's what we're writing about perhaps, but they know loss, grief, failure, and shame. We're all visited by the same family of feelings which arrive in the form of different life experiences. Beneath the things that transpired is an undercurrent which is not cerebral but emotional. It joins us all to readers. Leonard Cohen said this in an interview about songwriting. I think you work out something. I wouldn't call them ideas. I think ideas are what you want to get rid of. I don't really like songs with ideas. They tend to become slogans. They tend to be on the right side of things, ecology or vegetarianism or anti-war. All these are wonderful ideas, but I like to work on a song until those slogans, as wonderful as they are and as wholesome as the ideas they promote are, dissolve into deeper convictions of the heart. I never set out to write a didactic song. It's just my experience. All I've got to put in a song is my own experience. So, write to touch while touching yourself. Not in that way. You know what I mean. So that is the chapter on touch and be touched, and that really is what, writing about emotion is all about. So I hope that you had some good experiences, even though it felt difficult and hard to write into the emotion. Can you see there isn't a way of not experiencing the emotion to write about it, and that's why people don't do it. I've had a writer who was so overwhelmed with grief, and I was mentoring her, and she was just writing in the passive voice. Her stuff was so abstract, but I could tell she had a real facility to write, and she just didn't want to go there. And I kept saying, "Oh, you need to put yourself in your writing." And she just looked at me with these sad eyes, and she said, "But if I write about it like that, do I have to feel it again?" And I said, "Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to feel it again." So you should only write about things when you're ready to feel them again. The deal is, though, that when you feel them again, really feel them, and you really own them, and then you put them on the page, I think there's this beautiful paradox that when you own it, you're allowed to let it go. And there's a lot of work that's been done to show that when we write in this way, where we connect with our experience, really connect with it, not just in a kind of an obsessive, over-identified way, but we connect with it and we step back from it and we make meaning from it, which is the writerly gesture. You have to step out of it and then reflect on it as well. It's not just staying stuck in the emotion of it and feeling it and feeling it and feeling it and feeling it, because that can become a downward spiral. You have to own it, feel it, reflect, step out and reflect on it. And when that happens, there is this way in which your heart sometimes is able to slowly, by increments, let an experience go. And that's why writing is so healing, and that's why it's so important for us to write into emotion in a way that is powerful and cathartic and raw and honest and not bullshitty and not sentimental and not over-romanticized and not cliched, because that stuff ain't going to get you anywhere. That stuff is just rehashed stuff that other people have said about the kind of experience you've had. Forget about other people's experiences of the things you've experienced. The only thing that matters is your experience of your experience. So we can learn from other people's experience, we can draw from other people's experience, but ultimately what you want is to own an experience and make it your own. And what is true is that, yes, we all experience joy, we all experience sorrow, we all experience grief, but each of us, just like our fingerprints, does it in our own unique way, because we're all delicately constructed from the unique combination of life experiences that has put each one of us together in this kind of, never again to be done combination. That's what's just so amazing about it, is that you are completely unique and yet we are all the same. It's the paradox of it. We all have the same emotions, but we're all different in it. And that's why I never, ever, ever think that what your story's been written before. It hasn't been written before. Those themes might have been written before by other people, and you might identify strongly with the way other people have written about them, but never ever think that that means that your own take on that experience will not be sufficiently different. And the harder you work at the craft and the better writer you become and the more refined your emotions, the harder you work into the subtlety of emotion, the more you offer other people. You help other people to make sense of the mush of their emotions. If you can take a very overwhelming experience and gently and delicately dissect it and work into it and work out how you recovered from something, how you got through something, what were those moments, what were those delicate, incremental shifts that happened for you through grief, what were the textures of them, what were the colors of them, how did it work for you? That is what will make your writing shimmer. Your own experience, not what other people have done or experienced or thought. So it's so worthwhile to own all your emotions. Never ever think that your emotions are the things that have bogged you down or have broken you. There's this amazingly beautiful, I should have got a picture of it out, and perhaps I still can, just seeing if it's up here and easily accessible for me. I don't know if it is. So there's this amazingly beautiful concept in Japanese art called kintsugi, and it is the art of taking a broken vessel, a vessel that is completely shattered, and fixing it together with gold resin so that the where the places where it is broken becomes the most beautiful part of the object. And I always think that, you know, emotion works the same way, is that when we feel we're broken in a particular place, you know, Rumi and Leonard Cohen write about how look at the cracks, because that is where the light comes in. If you can take the things that have really broken you, brought you to your knees, the things that you have felt were unendurable, if you can take those experiences and be with those emotions in a way and write into them in a way that is subtle and delicate and honest, you create something beautiful out of it. You just offer something back to the world because of that experience. And I often think sometimes maybe that's actually what the whole point of life is about, actually, is for us to take all these difficult experiences we've had and to work out a way to communicate them with other people, so that they can look at their experience and go, oh, maybe I can do that too. So every time you do that, you inspire another person. You offer your experience back, you reframe it, you create those little bits of gold resin that people can look at their grief. Maybe they feel completely overwhelmed in their grief, but they've seen what you've done with yours. And you just give somebody that feeling, you know, that feeling when you read a book and you feel like, God, that person really gets me. Even though you've never met that person, we connect with that person, we connect with that writer, because we know that they've gone into that emotion in an honest way. So that's why this is a really, you know, really important thing to do for yourself. So I wanted to talk to you about that today, about the importance of sticking with this, going into the hard places. I know that it's difficult. I know some of you went into some really, really tricky places today, and that is just my deep respect to all of you. It's sometimes actually, weirdly enough, easier to write about difficult experiences than it is to write about happy experiences, because in a way I often think, why would a reader care about your happy experience? You've got to find a way of not being sentimental or over romanticizing a happy experience, and finding a way to make it relevant to a reader. And that can sometimes even be more tricky than writing about a difficult experience. So experiment across the board with the different kinds of, you know, emotions that you've had. So that's a little bit of feedback on today's exercise, and I just wanted to respond to the kind of, I've been a bit swamped and overwhelmed by people sending me emails, personal emails and personal Facebook messages asking me to give them feedback on their writing. So perhaps I haven't been very clear. The invitation is for you to send me a question about your writing, one that I can respond to either in this Facebook group or, you know, personally. We're reaching out personally to people. And the important thing was not to say to you that I can give you personal feedback on a particular piece of writing. As you can understand and appreciate, there are around 2,000 of you in this challenge, and I'm doing my very best to go through and give individual feedback in the Facebook group. I'm in there as often as I can, be hours and hours every single day, giving little bits of feedback, and that is something that I'm really happy to do. But I cannot respond to personal requests for feedback on your writing. You know, getting feedback from me on your writing is the next level of engagement with me, and it's not something that I can do for free. I'm sure that you can understand that and can appreciate that. However, at the end of these 7 days, I am running a competition for a scholarship to my Author Awakening Adventure program, my online writing program, and part of the first prize is a 1-hour one-on-one mentoring session with me, where you will be able to that person will get personal feedback from me on their writing. So I want to encourage all of you, please, to apply for the competition. You know, submit your application on day 7, and you know, you never know. One of you is certainly going to win that prize. So make sure that you do that. The last thing I wanted to do is to say it was really very, very difficult to pick a winner of the writing prompt cards for yesterday, because there was so much courage and such hard work. People really got into that challenge and they really went for it yesterday. And I was just reading all these entries and just crying. There were just so many amazing moments, and you all deserve, you all deserve to get your reward for what you did yesterday. I just was so moved by how you took that on. But I have to say, I am going to be sending a pack of cards to Simone Lisa, who really wrote some amazing stuff about how difficult it was for her to look at herself, and shared that. And many of you shared so much in the Facebook page and on the website. And I just want to say thank you all for doing that. It was so moving and so wonderful to read all of that. I think that is all for today, for Sunday. Tomorrow we're into day 5, and we're getting towards, we're tapering off. So please, you make the most of this challenge. I hope that things have shifted for you. I hope that you're starting to feel excited about the possibilities for yourself in the writing. And thank you for making it such a wonderful experience for me too.